Just kind of curious, and it would be nice to, do we have a written policy that governs how we handle these documents? Not only for your department, which is important, but I think across the board with all departments, because I'd be curious as a board member to be refreshed as to what our policies are today. I mean, it's probably evolved over the last 20 and 30 years, so what we think might be happening and what is actually happening could be two different things.
We don't have a policy specific to shredding, but we do have policies that address confidential documents and retention of those documents and destruction of those documents. We have policies that address those.
I'd like to see those if it's possible, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if the rest of the board's interested, but I think it would be helpful to be familiar with that. So that way down the road when the big surprise and, a big hullabaloo takes place, at least we can appreciate what it's all about. Because I have concern when you have documents, some documents may be of historical value too. That's another problem we've had in years past. Anyway, thank you. So this guy is legit and he comes up.
Yes,
There's
and they
no
carry
gaps.
buku insurance because
Yeah.
that's an important job they have.
I've actually seen vehicles like that in town where they advertise just for private business where they can come and document, instructions for you. So,
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Okay, is there any questions? Any questions of the public on this item? All right, so the action request is to approve contracts and authorize the CAO to sign.
Make the motion.
So, okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, chair votes aye. Thanks, Molly.
Thank you.
Okay, last but certainly not least is item H2, the budget.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Actually, second.
Would you like to do-
Let's do that, let's take on that add-on item quickly. H10, the ambulance, would you like to give an intro to that, Richard?
Sure.
H10.
Mr. Chairman, as the board knows, the Southern Cascades group placed an initiative on the ballot last time to try to establish a fee for the service that they need up there for ambulance service. That failed. And so this resolution is an effort to, again, place that on the ballot for November to see if they can get that passed. There's a significant issue up there with the ambulance service, and the ability to provide that is in jeopardy, and so this would help to facilitate that. So Supervisor Alba and others in the public are here to weigh in on but the resolution that the board's being asked to adopt would place it on the ballot.
Right. It's basically going to be the same thing, $65 per parcel, with a cap on it. The other thing that we has changed around on this is the kill clause. So if the tax initiative part of it doesn't pass, the creation of the community service district is still there. So if there's some form of entity, so if something comes up later on, that there's the ability to an entity to apply for grant funding or something, they'll get something. Bob gave a report this last week on the viability or possibility, how the sense of being included in.
Not an option.
Yeah, it's gonna
Not
cost.
gonna happen.
Yeah, it's gonna cost county a bunch of money to so that's kind of where we're looking at it from with this.
One question, so is the MODOC portion of the district also going to have the same major placed on their ballot for that portion of the district?
I believe so. We have talked to other members of the community, but I believe they're discussing this today.
And then the question is, if it passes in one county and not the other, does the one county it passed, does it stay in effect, or is it dependent upon the other county passing? Because personally, I mean, as much as you need to do that, I hate to see the effort put forth and the Lassen County residents respond favorably, and if their neighbors to the north don't, then their efforts are not. So I think it should be, we should make it clearly understand early on that if it, that the passage is not dependent upon the other side of the line being passed as well. So I think that's an issue that
We just got this back from LAFCO, and I know they made some changes, so I'll defer to the, to some of the groups that are here representing that working group for more knowledge of that.
So what, I have a question, like, I know the area of service and all that was sorted out, long ago, but, I mean, when deciding, on an ambulance service, I mean, who decides or who makes the decision, to carve out a portion of the county? I mean, there must be a reason. I'd like to, hear it just from my own knowledge, but, I mean, people that up in your area, paying property taxes. It just seems like when you're providing ambulance service for a county, it should stretch through the whole county. I never quite understood when this first came up early in my
Or
time here
our
with
property
Brian.
taxes don't go in support of ambulance services anywhere in the county.
It is state law that the ambulance, that the county provide ground ambulance. They are by state law required to do that.
So that we service that area, there's not a standby guy there, is that the deal?
Well, there is ambulance provided in that area now, it's just the time for that is.
So the whole issue here is that there's not like a base there.
Right, see, in Lassen, part of Lassen County, we have the exclusive operating area that does not include that particular area.
The county has the authority to create, like franchises for a particular area to be exclusive. And it's not that the county provides the ambulance, but it can, say, okay, you're the guy that can be the ambulance. But there's nobody right now providing ambulance service up in that area.
Well, there is.
There's no exclusive operating area.
Yeah.
Right.
There is one of the, it can come out of Myers or
Bernie?
Bernie or
Out
whatever.
there.
The issue is, the response time is too long. It could be 45 minutes. You need a response time of under 20. I mean, in the exclusive operating area, covered by SEMDA, you get in the outlying areas, I mean, an accident on Highway 44, or, they may have to be covered by Westwood, and maybe Westwood's already out of, on stuff, and so Susanville's got to go. I mean, the three ambulances here in the DOA do back up in each other. Up there, they're too far away. You'd have to park an ambulance up there, and the cost is prohibitive.
But anywhere in the area there within Lassen County, if somebody calls and needs an ambulance, are people
They will get it.
obliged to
They'll
go?
get an ambulance, whether they get it in a timely fashion is the issue.
Or they have to come from Susanville or Altus or Fall River.
All right. We're gonna go to public comment in just a sec. So, okay, well, that's the introduction. Is there any other questions from the board, and we'll go to the public? Okay. So we'll go to the public comment at this time on this item. Eileen?
I'm Spencer of CountyHealth.com. This was added as an emergency item. I understand that, but is it the intention of the board to pass a resolution that the public hasn't had any review on?
It was actually added pursuant to 54956, 54954.2. Let me make sure I'm correct on my site here. B2.
Yeah, I understand the grant.
Well, actually, if you did, then you would not call that an emergency item, because that's
Well, it
not
was
the section
called,
that
if you
refers to
look-
emergency item.
If you'll look at the, or video or the audio, it was introduced as an emergency item by Mr. Supervisor Alba. There is quite an objection to not the issue, Supervisor Alba. I am totally in favor of this, and I regret that it didn't pass the first time. But to introduce a resolution in this manner isn't fair to you, it isn't fair to the public. We have no copy of this resolution. There's no public comment that would be relative because we don't have, it wasn't distributed. So I would suggest that you re-agendize it, issue the resolution and let the public, it's not like the building's on fire or the building's going to fall down. emergency. We haven't had a tornado. It's not that type of emergency, but you must let the public review a resolution, and certainly not in this manner.
Mr. Chairman, we should probably stick to the agenda. The debate about whether or not we were going to add this item to the agenda occurred earlier on in the meeting, and it was passed, and so now we're debating the merits of the issue. The emergency, just or if you want to call it emergency, or the urgency, is that there is a date by which the clerk has to have this resolution in order to add to the ballot.
Have it on the ballot for the November election.
And that would occur after, or prior to the next regularly scheduled board meeting. So that's what creates the
If
urgency,
we didn't add this today, it would delay it for 2 years, basically, until the election.
potentially, or to the next election.
Or we have
Unless they have a special election.
special election.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chairman, if I may do this is a health and safety issue, because if this does not get on the agenda for the next election, it is not passed, and the response time is 45 minutes, someone may lose their life because we didn't act today.
I suggest you adjourn and make copies for everybody.
Well, that's your opinion. Thank you for your,
Yeah.
I just have one question, since the board members haven't got a copy, but I did borrow the copy that Mr. Alba has, took a brief look at it. And my question, I guess, to him or to staff is this basically a mirrored image of the resolution that we passed back in whenever it was in January and February that placed it on the June ballot? I would assume it basically is just an updated version of that, and if so, are there any changes to that particular resolution from before, and if so, what those changes would be, other than the date of changing the election, calling for the election in June, now we're calling for it in November, because if indeed that's the case, then for the last several months, we've had a substantive copy of that available to us if you look at the historical records, so that might be helpful for those who want to debate the issue and the merits of the issue.
Well,
If it's a totally different resolution with a whole bunch of different whereases and wherefores, then maybe the criticism, has more merit. But,
I'll preface this by saying, County Council and I received this yesterday as well, but having looked through it, I think the only substantive changes are the removal of the kill clause, as Supervisor Alba has noted, and the change in the dates. I don't believe there are any substantive changes other than that.
so is that changed, and I guess the question I'd asked earlier, which I still haven't got an answer, but hopefully the folks from Southern Cascade can address, and that is if it's dependent upon both sides passing with the prerequisite number of votes in order for it to go in effect across the border, one side or the other. Like if Lassen defeats it, MoDOC approves it, or MoDOC defeats it and we approve it, at least they have that much money to start working with to be able to do it.
I would like to ask them, defer to them.
If that would
to
be,
answer
that would be
question.
something that would be in the resolution.
I don't think that issue has changed from the
Okay,
last resolution.
I just wanted to-
But I'd like them to address that.
okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Sure, I hope I could answer all the questions here. My name is Dan Valson from the Big Valley EMS Working Group. And as has just been stated, our intent is that it is exactly the same resolution that was passed by you folks earlier this year, with the exception that Aaron's already noted that we removed the kill clause in what would end up being the second measure, the tax part, that said if the tax part didn't pass, that then effectively the formation of the district was killed, even though majority voted for it. And we've asked that be removed, and that's what's in the resolution. And that's the only change. I apologize for the urgency and the way this played out, but we, as a group, wanted to go back and spend some time in re-looking at, do we need to change this thing? Do we need to go back to LAFCO? And we have had discussions with the LAFCO executive director. And what ended up happening is, no, we want to move ahead and try again. By the way, we're only 44 votes short. So if we convince 22 people to vote another way, that this thing will pass. And interestingly, I'm not sure if you folks picked up on it, even though I believe it was in the paper over here. The 2 precincts on the Lassen County side actually passed by 2/3. So we are very close. And in terms of the urgency, I just want to emphasize the fact that, to go back to you folks' discussion about how is this thing created, we're actually have a plan here in Lassen County that was completed a number of years ago that kind of broke the county in 2 zones. You folks set in Zone 1, which has the EOA, the exclusive operating area that SIMSA operates under, which that, as you all are aware, will be, you have to go through the renewal process, and then Zone 2, in which Big Valley and kind of the northern third of the county sets, in which there is no EOA, and was served by the ambulance in Eden before its closure, and small parts of the county, Pittville, Day Road area, by mayors. And the issue is just one of timely response, as you said, and we've had some incidents that I won't go into here because you've got a lot on your agenda, but it's been pretty ugly. We've had incidents of an hour and 20-minute responses, not just 45 minutes. And so that's the urgency of trying to get this thing back on the ballot as quickly as we can. And the only comment I would just make is that, we want to work with you all as the SIMSA thing, we understand it's not likely that SIMSA or whoever your contractor is going forward is going to probably place a full-time paid ambulance up there, but we want to be a part of that process. We want to be a part of the EMS system in Lassen County. And SIMSA has, by the way, had to respond and pull one of your ambulances from the South County north several times in the last few months. And that impacts all of you. And there was an incident that occurred here on 139, just south of Eden, a little ways, and it was actually the Westwood ambulance that ended up responding up there. So our void up there has a huge impact all around us. So we do believe there's some urgency. We don't want to wait 2 years to put this back on the ballot. So that's why we're here today. I have sent a text message trying to validate whether MODOC is doing the very same thing you are at this hour. I tried to validate whether they have already passed it up there or not, and I haven't got a message back. But our intent is that we have this resolution come out of both boards today. In talking to my peers up there, they feel very confident that we do have the votes to pass the same resolution in Modoc County. But I can't confirm that it's happened yet.
Okay, thanks.
Then to help answer Jim's question, come November, after the voting is said and done, if Lassen County passes but Modoc County doesn't, or vice versa, what happens?
Same thing has happened in June, is that we have not changed anything. The district doesn't form unless there's a majority vote in both counties and 2/3 for the tax in both counties. And county council helped me out here, but the way I understand it, the way it's set up, is you kind of look at the vote count blindly in terms of that county line even being there. So, and understand that for the district formation, if we hadn't had that kill clause, you would be appointing members to that board right now because it passed as a majority significantly. We were at just at 60%. So we in terms of passage in the 5 or 6 precincts that we have voters in. did I help that? And that's just my view, Jim, so.
So I just wanted to make sure that I understand where we are, whether that would be my recommendation or not. I think my recommendation is that without the kill clause, and if we can get one or parts of it in place, and you keep working on the other parts, at least you have something to work with. So it would be, to me, you guys have put a lot of energy and effort into this, and if, you know, the Lassen side responds and we get, you know, 70% on the tax, and we have the, you know, creating of the district, and having that basically negated because, you know, whether it's 44 people or 4 people on the MODOC side chose to say no, then you're right back where you started from. I call it the Hubert Humphrey half-loaf theory. It's best to, you know, you argue for the whole thing, and if you only get half of it this time, take that half and just continue arguing for the other half, and eventually you get half of that half, and over time, you can maybe put the whole thing together. At least you have something to work with. And my hope is if we're gonna continue the effort, that we try to, you know, have the connection, but have separate ability too, so that you don't lose the progress you may have on the Lassen side.
Okay, Bob, do you have a comment?
Just a fast comment, everybody is connected through NorCal EMS.
Yes.
Everybody that belongs, which is MODOC, Lassen, Plymouth here, whatever they are, Trinity, I forget it.
Okay. Eileen?
In the last 15 minutes, we could have had copies of this made, there are copies that are available, and I suggest strongly that you adjourn, make copies for the people that have come here. It's highly irregular for not even the board to know what this resolution says. You have one copy of it right now?
I have one copy here.
Yeah, and it's just my supervisor doesn't have a copy, and the public doesn't have a copy.
I did fastly review this one, but.
Yeah, we need to adjourn and make copies for it. I ask the board respectfully
That's
to
fine, but it
make
is-
copies.
All I'm still want to clarify, it's basically the same resolution as the first
That-
one.
That's close as, yeah, you know. Okay, I respectfully adjourn to make
You want
copies.
to make copies for the public, it's good. We can then-
Maybe we should find, does anybody need a copy?
The rule says if a document is not available for posting with the agenda, then it shall be made available to the clerk immediately on the conclusion of the
I would share with anybody that needs it.
County Council, can you just, what did you say?
Yes, my comment was related to the release of documents that aren't available at the time of the posting of the agenda, may be made available immediately upon the conclusion, or I think the language is as soon as is practicable after the conclusion of the, thank you, Madam Clerk, after the conclusion of the meeting. Madam Clerk.
Oh, all right. So, okay,
I'm done.
okay.
Unless you
Is
have
there anyone else
questions about
to talk on this matter?
They're more shy than I am, so.
I'm not shy, I just don't want to be redundant.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Yeah, well, I mean, on my behalf, yeah, it's unfortunate that it did come last minute, I must say. I don't know what the reasons are why we couldn't have got this a few days ago, but I'm personally not pleased that there is no copies, but with that said, I understand this needs to happen, and I understand it needs to happen today, and I understand it needs to be on the ballot, but it is unfortunate. I don't know, maybe there's a good reason, but anyhow. That's all I have to say. I would obviously support it, but
Government's not always.
okay, anything else?
I just want to state for the record, Mr. Chairman, even though I don't have a physical copy in front of me, I did have an opportunity to read throughout the copy that Mr. Alba had, and I'm satisfied, at least I know what I'm voting on. So if anybody wants to make an issue that I'm voting on something that I don't know what I'm voting on, I just want them to be assured, as a matter of record, that I had a chance to read in its entirety the resolution and the cover sheet that was with it, so.
And I also did, and it is the same resolution.
it's, yeah, when I read it, you know, having worked on it with LAFCO, it's in essence the same resolution minus the kill clause and the change of the date, so.
Okay, well, very good. So we've taken public comment, we've had discussion, and what's the pleasure of the board?
We move that, approval to add that to the November election for Cedar Cascade.
Action should be to adopt a resolution.
Yes.
Okay, very good. It's been moved and seconded. Do we need a poll vote on this?
Go ahead.
Just do it anyways.
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Alba?
Aye.
Supervisor Viola?
All right.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
Supervisor Watson?
Aye. All right, thank you guys for coming in. Good luck. I hope it works out. I really do. Thanks.
Maybe. I didn't, we went down that. Thank you.
Okay, let's move over to item H2, the budget.
I thought I put this on the consent calendar.
The county budget? This document here?
Nice try.
Well, first of all, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank Julie Morgan and our auditor-elect Diana Winkle for giving me a great deal of help in compiling the budget, as well as the budget committee and the department head. And I'm going to go over some general comments and then ask Julie to come up and go through a few more specifics. And I think we can treat this, my recommendation, as a starting point for the board's discussion in terms of priorities. We've attempted to incorporate the board's priorities as they've been voiced in various fashions through the budget committee and through board meetings over the last several months. The budget that I've recommended attempts to maintain the services that we've historically had in the county. And I'm going to start off with some good news, and then I'll get on to the bad news, and then we can debate these. But it maintains the services that we've historically had without incorporating any layoffs, which I think is a very positive thing. We have some minor reductions in staff and transfers from department to department, but none of them are resulting in forced layoffs, and I think that's a very good point of the budget. We've included funding again for the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority in the amount of $200,000 for the swimming pool, and also $20,000 for the pool in Beaver. We've included funding for the SEDS economic development effort, which includes the restrooms.
Is it new funding or is it the rollover funding?
Both,
Okay.
both. So there's funding in there for
How much is rolled over and how much is new?
100, and then
100?
in new funding, and then their restrooms we estimated it, and I'll get into the detail a little bit more.
Okay.
Restrooms we estimated at 50,000, and some other funding in the trails coordinator position, and I don't have the exact dollar amount, but Julie can help us out with that in a minute. We continue, and I'll get into this item a little bit more in depth. We continue subsidization, I guess, for lack of a better word, of the economic development department effort, or division effort, significantly, and to the tune of about $300,000. And that's one of the issues of conclusion that I'd like to address with the board, as far as how the level of that, and if that is a strategy that we want to continue, or over the next year, do we want to try to reduce the requirement of that subsidy, which may require a reduction in services. So I just want to put that out there. We significantly increased funding for public safety, and some of that occurred during the middle of the year, but it's been continued into the next budget. I believe we'll increase actually 5 positions in the sheriff's department. Other departments have very minor increases in staff, mainly administration. In terms of capital improvements, and I guess I'll preface this by saying this budget doesn't contain a long-term financing plan for the capital improvements plan that we're currently developing. It does contain funding for